Good evening, everybody. I don't have everything, but the House of Commons is erupting. People are very, very upset. There are people who are not happy at all with this government. And the opposition they're all asking questions of the Liberal government, and it's all about SNC. It's all about the Supreme Court leaks. It's all about the missteps of this government. And Miss Chagger, who is the Liberal House leader currently, she's answering the questions as Prime Minister Trudeau is not there. It doesn't look like anyway. And she's answering the questions, and she keeps using the same talking points over and over again. And I'm going to show you the highlights from this question period, but there was so much more stuff that happened today. There's so much stuff. Pierre Poilievre is doing a filibuster, and yeah, there's a lot going on. So I'm going to show you the highlights here. So first is, I'll let this start off because the first question is a wonderful question and it's phrased perfectly. Here we go.
Questions orales. Oral questions. The Honourable Opposition House Leader.
Revealed in the tapes last week prove that the Prime Minister has not been telling the truth. The Prime Minister not only had the knowledge about the pressure being applied on the former Attorney General, but he and his office were in fact orchestrating it. Wow. As the clerk said, the Prime Minister wanted his way and he was going to get it. Now, I know I'm not allowed to say that the Prime Minister lied, so my question is this. Why did the Prime Minister give deceitful and false information to Canadians regarding the pressure he and his office applied to the former Attorney General?
The Honourable Opposition House Leader knows that you can't do indirectly what you can't do directly, so I'd ask her to be careful with that. The Honourable Government House Leader.
So I want you to pay attention. This is the main talking point that Ms. Chagger uses to refute every single question. Every single one. Doesn't matter what the talking points are. If the question is, what do you have for lunch today? This is the answer. Okay, here we go.
Mr. Speaker, it's important that Canadians be reminded that the Prime Minister gave unprecedented access to the former Attorney General. He waived sister-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. It's also important to note that the Prime Minister has taken responsibility for the breakdown of communication within his office as well as with the clerk of the Privy Council. It's important to note that the Justice Committee looked at this matter for over 5 weeks. They actually held meetings in public so that Canadians could hear. And it's also important to note that the Conflict of Interest and Ethics Commissioner is currently studying this matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Opposition House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are not buying the ever-changing saga that the Prime Minister is trying to peddle. First of all, he said there's nothing to see here. All allegations are false. Then second, we all heard it's Scott Bryson's fault. Yep. And now the blame is being placed and was placed on the former Attorney General. It was all her fault for not saying no loudly and clearly enough to the Prime Minister. When we heard the tapes and all of us heard, she said no to the Prime Minister. So why does the Prime Minister just stop telling us just his perspective and tell us the truth?
The Honourable Government.
And again, Ms. Chagger says the same line. So I'm going to line up the next clip. Okay, this question is responded to with a similar talking point as the last one I showed you. And, well, here we go.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has asked Canadians to listen to Michael Vernick, and we did so. He said that the former Attorney General did not raise her concerns to him with regard to negotiating a plea deal with SNC-Lavalin, but we now know that she did so on several occasions. Canadians aren't buying this, and they realize that the PM has no credibility in this affair. When will the Prime Minister stop changing his story and tell Canadians the truth? The Honourable Government House Leader. The PM waived solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidence so that those who have information can speak openly. This is unprecedented. This file, nothing was off limits on this file, and the waiver applied to the whole mandate of the former Attorney General. It was the whole period of time during which there were allegations. All the facts are now public, and the Ethics Commissioner is continuing his work, and a file is open. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the government is controlling the Justice Committee and they want to hear what they want to hear. There was 11 witnesses that were asked by the opposition that were refused. The Prime Minister, does he realize the danger of undermining the justice system? We don't live in a dictatorship. Are we supposed to believe that nothing has happened? When will he stop misleading Canadians? We want to know the truth. The Honourable...
Okay, and I'm going to stop it there. And again, I'm not going to let you listen to her response. It's a lot of the same talking points. And sometimes she'll go in a different direction, but it's all kind of couched in the same area. It's like you're playing in the same arena. Hit that talking point and that talking point. Like, oh, he waived privilege. It's unprecedented. It was for the whole period of time while she was the Attorney General. All of these things she keeps saying and repeating like it's an answer to the question she's asked, but she's not answering the question she's asked. I'll show you some examples of that where she's asked a direct question. And well, the question is, why doesn't he want to, what did his chief of staff mean when she said she doesn't want to debate legalities anymore? What does that mean? And so that's the kind of stuff. And we have the best policy in the world, but we need to get reelected. What does that mean? And then they start using the same platitudes and dancing around it. I'll show you that in a minute. But I wanted to show you another thing first, and I'll cue that up. Before I cue that up, I wanted to underline the strong language used in this clip. He said, we don't live in a dictatorship, and Canadians need to hear the truth. I agree with that. The one of the many things that makes our country great, or used to make our country great, was that the rule of law applied. And what is the rule of law? And the rule of law is that the rule of law, being the law, applies the same to an 18-year-old as it does to the Prime Minister, right? To somebody who's just starting out versus the leader of the country, a corporation or a corner store, right? Big Wall Street and Main Street, one rule of law. Right, we will prosecute you. You will do jail time. But Trudeau's underlining that that's not true anymore in Canada. And so the strong language being used in the House of Commons is notable, as well as the non-answers being given when that strong language is used by the Liberals, right? They don't have an answer. They just have talking points that they keep trying to shove down your throat. Unprecedented, right? Sure. Whatever. What does that mean when it doesn't answer the question? Unprecedented cover-up. Unprecedented expense, unprecedented corruption. How's that? Unprecedented. Shove it up here, right? Hold on, I'll cue up the next clip. So this is The Tape Doesn't Lie. And yeah, here we go.
Operate.
In February, the Prime Minister said, I would recommend that people pay close heed to the words of the clerk of the Privy Council. Last Friday, Canadians did just that when they heard the clerk carrying out orders from the Prime Minister, pressuring the former Attorney General to cut SNC Lavalin a special deal. The tape makes it clear that political interference in an ongoing criminal proceeding was happening at the highest levels of this government. The tape doesn't lie. So why doesn't the Prime Minister start telling the truth?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Canadians were able to hear the truth, and that's exactly why Justice Committee members were able to have their meetings in public. That's a decision they took, and that's what took place. The Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence because Canadians do deserve to be able to hear the truth. It's also important to note that the former Attorney General said that the rule in Canada, the rule of law in Canada is intact, and that the rule of law was followed. And the Prime Minister recognizes that we can always improve our institutions, and that's why he accepted responsibilities for the breakdown of communication and trust within his office, and we've put measures to move forward in an even better way. We will continue to deliver for Canadians.
Member for Chilliwack Hope.
The tape makes it clear that the Prime Minister was demanding a special deal for SNC Lavalin. We heard the clerk clearly when he said that the Prime Minister is going to find a way to get it done one way or another. He's in that kind of mood. The tape removes all doubt that there was a coordinated campaign to interfere in an ongoing criminal prosecution of SNC Lavalin, and that the Prime Minister himself was orchestrating it. In light of this damning new evidence, will the Prime Minister just finally end the cover-up and start telling the truth?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, to ensure that Canadians can hear the truth, that's exactly why Justice Committee members had their meetings in public. That's exactly why the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. Mr. Speaker, it's also important to note that the Prime Minister as well as the clerk of the Privy Council in that same recording confirmed that this was a decision for the former Attorney General to take. They confirmed within that same recording that those were tools that were only available to the Attorney General. What we know is that the former Attorney General took a decision, and that decision remains the case today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What she's not saying there is their position is that they can change their mind up until the time the case is done trial. So right up until the time where they're convicted of whatever crime, you can pull the ripcord with a DPA or remediation agreement, whichever you want to call it. So the misrepresentations in their talking points is so interesting. And the first part of that question was that answer was a carbon copy of the answer from the first one. Okay, I'll cue up the next clip. Here is an NDP, and I've shown two NDP just because I want to be as bipartisan as I can be and show you that people are really upset. This is across the board. Everybody is ticked off about what is happening with this Liberal majority. It is not just the Conservatives who are upset. Here we go.
For Timmins, James Bay.
Well, he deserved better than cheap laughs from the Prime Minister, the frat boy, because he promised the people of Grassy Narrows that he would clean up that river, and he broke that promise. But he keeps his promises to his friends at the Laurier Club, which is why he sent Michael Wernick in to push 17 times in 17 minutes to get the Attorney General to overturn the SNC investigation. Thank you for your donation to the Liberal Party, even if it is an illegal donation. What happened to his promise of ethical and moral government?
The Honourable comment, the Secretary to the Minister of Indigenous Services.
Mr. Speaker, I am very proud of the work that we've done as a government. Since being elected in 2015, we have found $17 billion of new dollars to invest in education.
Spoiler alert, they don't actually ever answer the question. So, I mean, we're not gonna waste time listening to the drivel. I'll cue up the next clip. So they're touching on every single scandal. They're talking on Grassy Narrows, the protester that got ridiculed by Trudeau at his Laurier Club dinner downtown Toronto the other day. The SNC Lavalin, which is the biggest scandal. They haven't touched on Norman. They haven't touched on Mark Norman. And they're touching on the Supreme Court leak as well. All of this is high-level stuff. All of this is highly inappropriate stuff. Unbelievable that Trudeau would leak a Supreme Court, information about Supreme Court nominees to damage a former Attorney General. Unbelievable. Beyond the pale. Harper would never sink that low to damage the sanctity of the institution. That's what I was looking for. So he wouldn't have sunk that low, but Trudeau doesn't seem to care. Here's the question on the Supreme Court of Canada leak.
Or Niagara Falls. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know why this is always so difficult for the Liberals here. Last week, the Manitoba Bar Association issued a very scathing statement regarding the confidentiality of the judicial selection process by the compromisation of Chief Justice Joyel's recommendation. Now, this serious breach of confidentiality under the Liberals has violated that justice's privacy and undermines Canadians' confidence in our judicial process. So, Mr. Speaker, why is it so difficult for him to do the right thing, contact the Privacy Commissioner, and get an investigation of this? That's what should be done. It shouldn't be that difficult.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Speaker, we have put into...
And Lametti never answers a question either, so I'm going to cue up the next clip. Okay, these are the clips I was talking about earlier. Here we go.
On Friday, more evidence was released from the former Attorney General, clearly demonstrating that the Prime Minister conducted a campaign of political interference in the criminal prosecution of SNC Lavalin. We still have a lot of questions, Mr. Speaker. In October, the Prime Minister's advisor, Mathieu Bouchard, said, quote, "We can have the best policy in the world, but we need to get reelected." What did he mean? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canadians have to learn the truth, and that's precisely why the Prime Minister waived cabinet confidence and solicitor-client privilege so that the witness could appear before the committee. For 6 weeks, there were meetings at which Canadians had the opportunity to hear for themselves. But what is clear is that the Conservatives made a decision before the Justice Committee decided to discuss this case, and they don't want to hear the truth. It's up to them, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It seems like we're hearing new truth coming every day, which would warrant the Justice Committee to investigate further. Liberals are saying that there is nothing new on this SNC scandal. But last week, we had heard substantial new evidence from the former Attorney General. And Gerald Butts has also tabled new evidence with the committee. Clearly, the Justice Committee's investigation was not complete. Canadians still want answers to questions like, what did the Prime Minister's Chief of Staff mean when she said she doesn't want to debate legalities anymore?
Honourable Government House Leader.
It's important that Canadians be able to hear for themselves, and that's exactly why, once again, the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. Mr. Speaker, this is an unprecedented action that took place because the Prime Minister recognizes that it's important for Canadians to be able to hear for themselves. These committee meetings took place in public and Canadians were able to hear. Members of the committee asked for additional documents to be submitted, and those documents have now been submitted. That once again confirms that the system is working and Canadians can have confidence in the system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Right. What did that mean? Debate legalities or the best policy in the world to get reelected? Oh, you have a transparent system that you have confidence in. Great. Nobody else has confidence. None. Nobody. And I just think it's really interesting that the Liberals, this is what they do. They tap dance away from the question until you forgot what the question was, and then they answer the question that they've reformatted now to be what they want to talk about, which is whatever, platitude. And I hope that you've seen through this video the amount of times they reuse the same talking points. And it might be hard to see, maybe I watched this video too much and I'm seeing patterns where there are none. But man, she just kept saying the same words over and over in different configurations, right? Like, it's not just me. I hope it's not just me. If it's just me, I need to go to a beach. Okay, or these Liberals need to stop talking in circles. My goodness. So that's it for this evening, but there is so much. This is so far from over. If we were on a Super Mario Kart track going around, we'd be on lap 2 of 4. Like there's more to come. And this isn't even talking about Mark Norman. This is still talking about SNC, the Supreme Court pick being leaked, all of these leaks coming from the Liberal Party, all of that stuff. This is all going to come to a head. And I mean, I don't think they're going to get anything done between now and the end of session before summer break, and that means we're basically in almost election season. Wild. Because yeah, I mean, there's so much going on, there's so much scandal. I don't know how anybody could be missing this if you're paying any attention at all in Canada. So wow, keep watching, everybody. There's more to come, I'm sure of it. So thanks for watching. Check out the peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Have a wonderful evening.